Hello, everyone. Welcome to HR Connections. Our channel is dedicated to finding success factors of business owners and professionals at the top of their game. We're starting a new series today, Global Achievers, where we're going to seek out and speak to professionals and business owners from across the globe. Our first episode, we have Kyle. He's a professional photographer from Perth, Australia. And as you can tell from the thumbnail, this is going to be a very interesting episode. So stick around, we'll be right back. Hello. As I just mentioned at the intro, that we have a very exciting guest with us today, Kyle, all the way from the most isolated place on earth, apparently. Kyle, how are
Yes, that's
you
correct.
this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well, Tarek. Thank you for having me on.
All right, perfect. So, tell us about Perth, apparently the most isolated place on earth.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, so it's I think the city's got 2.5 million people, but it's basically a country in its own. So it's closer to fly overseas than it is to fly to the other side of the country. So it's a beautiful town. It's like a very family town. So like people come here to raise their family, things like that. It doesn't have the same bustling vibe as Sydney or Melbourne.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's like a classic Australian city, very beachy, beachy vibes. Everyone lives on the coast, you know.
All right. All right, perfect. So we're gonna do a deep dive, get to explore Kyle the photographer, how you've come about all this way, right? But the thing is that let's start off with the early years.
Yeah,
What led you on this path to become a professional photographer? How did it all start?
for sure. So for me, I was taking photographs of with my phone. It actually started by taking photographs of my phone. I was just really, really interested in just taking photographs of anything and everything. I don't know why. I was just pulled to take photographs of things, and probably I think it might have been a iPhone 6 or something like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, I actually got prompted by someone, and a lot of the decisions in my life came from someone else, like kind of challenging me or saying, "Why don't you go and do this as photography?" And I got prompted to go and study. But to cycle back, I actually, when I was in Ireland, so I went to Ireland for about a 3-month period, and my stepfather lived in Ireland,
Mhm.
and so me and my stepfather were quite close. So I went there, I stayed there. We went surfing, and it's a little town on the west coast of Ireland called Easkey, and it's got a castle right on the coast. So there's two surf breaks, Easkey right, Easkey left, and there's not a whole bunch much more to that town besides the cows and a local pub. And what Ward would do is he would do up these old heritage houses, like these timeless houses. He'll fix them up. So I stayed there with him for about 3-4 months, and I just took my camera out every single day and I was taking photographs of the surfers. And it was that same thing. I wasn't sure why I was doing it. I wasn't sure. I was just being pulled to do it. And he put the seed in my brain. He said, why don't you do this as a career? And I had done photography in school, like for art projects and things like that. But I thought a career, and I kind of laughed at him. Like, what do you mean photography is a career? Like, what do you mean? Like to make money? Like that's the thing. And he's like, yeah, yeah. What about your uncle Sean? And I went, oh wow. And it kind of flew over my head that my uncle was a successful photographer, incredibly successful, one of Australia's top photographers. So that's when it kind of started to get rolling.
Mhm. Okay. All right, perfect. And I guess you also took it on an academic level as well, right? You pursued a diploma in the subject. Tell me a bit about that.
Yes. So my uncle, he did the same diploma about 20 years earlier. So I got, I guess, a bit of guidance, a bit of a point of direction, which one to do. And yeah, I did a diploma in Sydney. And basically what I realized what it was basically you're hiring out an incredible studio space that has millions of dollars of worth of equipment. and incredible teachers. One of our teachers was shooting on the set of The Hobbit. So, like he's showing you like how to use this gimbal machine and how he used it for like all the hobbits and the makeup rooms and everything like that. So it's incredible to have that sort of touch point. We had like a lot of like really good photographers. And basically the best part of that, or the best part I would say to anyone who's looking into photography, is that I was able to go to that studio and shoot and work on creative projects. And it was assignments. That was really what kind of sparked the creation and where I learned a lot more. So that's where you learn really in photography, is when you got your hands on your tools. And personally, I'm definitely a kinesthetic learner. I learn by actually doing things. And I think lots of photographers are.
Okay, perfect. And if you can think back, what was your first professional gig, the one you got paid for?
Great question. So the first jobs that I got actually came through a girlfriend I had at the time, and she had this Chilean, she was a Chilean woman. And so she had this South American sort of group community. And at a certain point, they all needed photographs. They needed photographs for a flamenco dance. So that was one of the first gigs I got paid for. So there was this flamenco performance with the two teachers, and then all the young students. And so pretty tough first job to shoot, because it was just such low light. And actually the first wedding I had a wedding with a beautiful couple. They were awesome. And it's always great to have a beautiful couple when you're like, beautiful as people. But one was Chinese and the other one was from Ghana. So in terms of lighting and making sure you expose, and as a photographer, exposing right for everything, you got the white dress, you got the deep blue suits, and you got the different skin colors. That was incredibly challenging. And so at the time, I also had my tutors at school who were like preparing me for it and telling me when to go closer to the highlights and when to go closer to the shadows. But man, like, if I'm going to be honest with you, I learned most of what I know and what I've applied on the amazing platform YouTube. Yeah.
So which year was it? For example, the wedding you just talked about, which year was it?
2015.
2015. Okay. And at that time, did you actually think that, yes, you know what, I can be a professional photographer, do this on a full-time basis? Or were you just exploring to see if this was like a side gig that you would be doing?
And so I was very intentional about it. So I went and hired a lot of photography gear, and I probably, and also like got two people to help me. One person who had done weddings before, like to be my assistant on this wedding, and then someone else to help me. So you learn things like from that assistant. I never got photographs, and that assistant spent a lot of time actually networking and trying to like score jobs rather than taking photographs at the wedding. So you learn a lot on the way. But for me, as I was doing it, I took it really serious. I took it like a profession. Like, this is a proper job. This is a profession. These people are paying me a lot of money. I never thought at the time I'll do weddings or I'll do this, I'll do that. And it's interesting. My uncle, who became one of Australia's top photographers for a period of time, he had wedding jobs and all these different jobs, and he didn't have a lot of like commercial jobs at the time, but he was really trying to make his way into commercial photography. And he focused so hard on that, so hard on his portfolio, and he didn't take any other jobs for about a year, regardless of all the pressures. And he eventually made it in commercial photography. So he really knew what he wanted to do from the outset. So I took the wedding jobs, I took anything and everything. I was interested in photography. I wanted to explore photography, and I knew through those jobs I would have gotten better skills, worked out how to talk to different clients, and grown through every job. So yeah, I was just keen to get stuck in.
Okay, perfect. So for a lot of people who would be watching this video, they may not know exactly what falls under commercial photography. So
Hmm.
perhaps you can just define like what are some of the jobs you would consider as commercial photography?
Yeah, for sure. So I was lucky enough to get a gig after I finished the diploma with my uncle. So I was able to go on these sets and I guess really understand, yeah, I was the same, what is commercial photography? So um, commercial photography is advertising photography for the top brands. So he would photograph for billboards, so like a billboard photographer. And so the jobs would be for like the top bank in Australia and the Australian rugby team, the Qantas Wallabies, so you'd be shooting for Qantas, the company. So, you'd be doing these, and there was also a shoot that I was on with him that was for the Cannes Film Festival, and they were taking photographs to submit to that. So it's really all about the advertising world, like real commercial photography is really about the advertising world. And advertisers, like NRMA, like these companies, they would have big budgets of 2 million for that advertising campaign, so it's a good job, but it's not, I guess, as consistent as weddings. Weddings you'll do multiple, maybe a month. Business photography, what I do, you could do multiple a week. Commercial photography, you got to score those jobs. But it's more of a high ticket item in photography, because a photographer could get paid 10K, 15K, up to 20K for a job. Some photographers I know, I've heard of in the US that could get paid 100K just on like licensing. So it's a whole nother world,
Right, right. Yeah, makes sense. So say we're in your first year of running your business, right? Um, how did you market your services in that first year?
It's the same way that I'm marketing this book that I'm writing, and this new like personal growth business is your closest circle, is your power base, your family and your friends, and you start there. And I think the best thing is to start there because it's a little bit more of a warmer touch. If you go straight into cold calling and networking and those things like that, you could get, your ego could get hurt, or you could get you could get some pain that might not help you forward. So I started with my family and friends, and actually it's funny, once you announce yourself as a photographer, so I would say this: don't forget to tell people you're a photographer. Or, and people ask, oh, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Are you at uni? What are you doing? Oh, I graduated uni and I'm actually doing some wedding photos. You don't need to say like, I'm really looking, I'm really struggling to find. You just say, I'm doing some like family photos, things like that. And then as you do that, people will say, oh, I've got to, do you do this shoot? Do you do that shoot? And I think photography is it's a very available marketplace. It's not like a financial advisor where maybe, the relationship has to build for a year and then possibly something comes from it. Photography is very much like, oh, I need someone tomorrow, or I've just realized it would be great to have someone. And especially in this post 2020 world, people need to get online, and they know they need to get online. A lot of people that weren't online got shocked into getting online. Got jolted into getting online, getting their business online, getting their events online. So I'd say start with your family and friends. Just share with them, hey, I'm a photographer. The close ones say, hey, look, I'm looking to get some jobs. Like if you know anyone. And then for me, where it really took off was when I got into networking.
Understood. Okay. And did you ever advertise your services, or was it always through word of mouth?
I did a lot of organic advertising, I guess, and then I think I did a couple of Facebook ads and a few like different online ads. But yeah, it was word of mouth, man, like word of mouth. And most photographers will say like word of mouth is the biggest thing. So another way to think about ways to market, what my uncle does, he's not the outward, marketing and contacts, how they would run their business, and very interesting. But he's got a lot of like real creative photographers, and they will hold galleries and events, and they'll do like prizes for photographers and things like that. It's all very much in the open on their website, So you got lots of people that are interested in photography that want to go and see a gallery, and then you got a lot of warm leads, people that are interested, and then they know, okay, this is what the pool collect. This is what this company does.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
For most people, like, if you don't have 8 brilliant photographer creatives that you can create a gallery together with, you won't be able to do that straight off the bat. But he was door knocking and showing his portfolio to people. So I would communicate with family and friends. Eventually, I actually went and got into networking, and that was daunting. But you're in a room with lots of different professionals, and you're the photographer in that room. And then they go, okay, when we need a photography job, we'll send it his way. And I'll tell you, man, because I came to Perth from Sydney, and I had those family photography jobs in Sydney, so I had those events and weddings, and I came to Perth and I was hitting the ground, trying to give my cards out, gift flyers, meet people, like florists and all these different people that might have clients. And it was all effort for nothing for like a good period of time. And then when someone actually grabbed me whilst I was doing a photography job for a Sydney company, and they said, "Oh, do you know any drone photographers?" And this is a big tip. She said, "Do you know any drone photographers? Would you like to know any drone photographers?" Big tip, just say yes. I said, yes, no, I'd love to know more. I'd love to find out, And she invited me to a network group. And in that network group, I went there, and all of a sudden these people that I'd never met in my life were saying, yeah, I need a headshot. Yeah. And like, you got all these cheerleaders, all of a sudden you got these people that are wanting to support you. So that's that. I mean, that's what I did, really, really kind of the networking. Photography is word of mouth. It's a big, big word of mouth business.
Understood. So basically the returns on social media advertising or paid social media advertising wasn't very great for you, right?
No, and like for me, and this is my personal experience, I found the organic marketing actually got more success. I had people that reach out to me directly via Instagram or Facebook. So just keep pumping your stuff out there. I mean, these are incredible tools that we have. They never used to be regulated. Now they are becoming more and more regulated, but they're incredible, powerful tools where you can just pump your media out there and just find interesting ways, and always push attention to other people. So if you shot somewhere, a great tip for people doing weddings and events, if you shot somewhere, find out who the stylist was, or the makeup artist, or the interior designer, or like the caterer, who, like all the celebrant. Find out who these people are, find them online, tag them in your posts. Just if you want to start getting reach, just look at it as a community and as a collective. So that's one thing that I would say. Really invite other people into your posts.
Okay, perfect. So I think the other thing which new photographers struggle with at times is setting their rates. So what is your suggestion? Like, how should one go about setting their rates?
Great question, man, because it was actually March of 2020. I had a part-time job in a camera store. So I was able to actually use lots of photography gear and go out there and obviously March 2020, I got made redundant from that job. They got rid of like 40% of the sales floor, and I was on the sales floor, and they in the entire company across Australia. And so they so leaving that job, I had like the worst month ever in my photography business. And I had a card of someone. I had a contact, and this person said, this is a business coach that I used. And so I went, and they really blew my business up. They helped me out a lot. And so I went and saw this business coach, and I invested in myself in a very unstable time. But I invested in myself, and I just went, if I don't do it now, and that's going to come a point for a lot of people that are in photography. I just had that moment where I went, if I don't go all in photography right now, I never will. If I don't go all in my passion, I never will. And so I went, saw this guy, and he asked me about my jobs, asked me about my rates. He worked out the numbers like really specifically. And one thing that you'll work out as a photographer, anyone in creative, it's a lot harder than, I guess, maybe a plumber or a sparky or different things to like work out your per hour rate, because you'll spend a ton of time on the computer editing, changing things around, and it might be enjoyable. You might have the music on, or, And next minute, you won't even realize how much time you've spent on that project. So he went through it, got the numbers, and he said, like, God, like some jobs you're earning like $15 an hour, like 10, you're earning pittance. Like, what are you doing? And it kind of blew me away. I was like, wow, I've just been looking to get jobs like because I didn't know anyone in Perth. And I've met a lot of people and done a lot of jobs for a lot of people. And he got me to get on the phone in that first initial meeting, call the client and outprice myself and say, look, I've had a review of my business, and to actually make things run, I can't do this job that, like in 2 months' time, like, but I've got other photographers that I can introduce you to. And it was amazing that client wanted to make it work. That client wanted to pay me the extra money. So he helped me with pricing. And I would say a great tip for photographers is to split the pricing of your hourly photography rates and your editing or your photos or the products that you're going to give over. So that's how I do it. I do it per hero photographs. So per set of 4, per set of 8. And lots of family photographers will do this, but you go and you do the shoot for an hour, 2 hours, and then you charge for that portion. And then they select, you give them the images and they go, actually, I want 4 images that are going to be professionally edited, that are going to be a high resolution where I can get them printed. And I can go back and forth and get as many edits as I want on these images. I want those 4 hero images. And then that was what really helped me to actually create a viable business.
Perfect. So apparently you were setting rates which were below market rate, would you say, initially? Is that what you were doing, one of the issues?
Yeah. And you really don't have an idea, because it's not like, like I said, come and give me some lawyer's fees advice for 2 hours. It's like every job is totally different. Hey, I need you to do these photos, but I need them all to be photoshopped. Or, hey, I need you to do these photos, but just give me the raw files. So every job was totally, I guess, unique and different. And what the client's demand was different. So what I was doing was I was allowing the marketplace, also I was allowing the clients to dictate to me the terms of my business. So I was allowing them to say, like, this is what I need. And then I just try and mold myself into it. Where what I actually changed was I went, hey, this is what I offer. This is how what you're needing can fit into my range of products or my range of services. And then that's what allowed me to not charge under the market. But I was definitely charging under the market. But man, I had a call with a client recently, and this is probably another tip. She called me and she said, I don't understand your industry. I said, what do you mean? She said, I'm trying to get these products, these candle photographs, these products done for my website, and they need to be perfect and brilliant. And I'm calling people, and there's people that will do it for $10,000. No, there's people that will do it for $10, and there's people that will do it for $2,000. And I just don't, and there's people that will do it 50 and all in the middle. And she's like, I got no idea. And then what I did, and this is a great tip, is that I ran her through why photography, what you'd get at that $10 range, what you'd get at that $2,000 range, where maybe in the middle might be a bit better for you. And I just gave. So bigger tip, and this is in all business, give. So I just gave information, tried to help her out. And then she said, oh, look, I might use you. And then eventually she did use me. So if you're wanting to score jobs, give, be the helper, be the provider. Don't be looking to grab. I had a gentleman recently who told me how much effort he put in to try and secure like business, like my business. And I found that like very icky, and it was very strange to me, because it's like, well, people that are in business, you got to put in the hard yards, and sometimes it doesn't go through, so if you want to put in the hard yards, make sure you have that good attitude and that giving service. And then that will help you, because the industry is crazy. You got people that will charge pittance,
Right. So let's talk about your success. So I know we've discussed this a little bit initially, is about, having a really good month, right? And I think you have an excellent success story about that.
Yes, man. Yes, Derek, definitely. So December was my biggest month, and I hit 10K in a month. and I didn't shoot one wedding. So, I didn't, which is a lot of people think like, oh, you do photography, do you do weddings? You get that question, do you do photography? No. And because some weddings will be 3K, 5K, 2.5K, so they're big numbers. To hit 10K, you only need a couple of those. But no, in that month, I had photography jobs, and like multiple clients. But it kind of equated to the same or maybe less work than weddings, because it wasn't a 12-hour day. And a lot of people, what they forget about weddings is it's that 12-hour day, but then it's that 2 weeks of editing. It's that post-production. So yeah, that was really awesome. I had a lot of, and December's usually quiet months for a lot of people, but I knew that December was coming up and that it was going to be quiet. So I just kept pushing in October, November. And then so December was really the biggest month last year.
Awesome. What kind of jobs did you do in that month?
Yeah, so I did product photographs. Like some of them were candles, some of them were like hats, lots of website photography. One of my clients was actually a GP who's getting on Amazon, and he was wanting to take photographs of these like little sets where you've got like little whiskey glasses and bottles and things like that. And then his wife was doing bread makers. So I did lots of product photography and lots of website photography. That's what I do most of. So headshots for a team of 12, group photographs, and then I do environmental photographs. So I prefer to actually go out and get into the environment, get into the cafe and the studio. And so those environment photographs would be, me with that client. And what we've done is we've done a project where we've set up his ideal target market sitting there in the cafe with him as he's going through his terms of his business, or as he's like giving his consultation, she's giving the consultation. So then that's where we would find locations and we'd go and shoot environmental photographs. So it was all business clients, business jobs, and a range of products, headshots, environmental photographs, and team photos.
Awesome, Kyle. So I think, as we're sort of winding down, I think one thing I wanted to know from you is that who should actually pursue a full-time career as a photographer?
Another great question. You're full of them. You're full of the good questions, mate. And they're making me think. So who would benefit from being a full-time photographer, or who should pursue it? I'd say you definitely have to have a passion, but you also need to be interested in business, because soon, if you want to full-time, if you just want to do it on the weekends, that's a different story. But if you want a full-time career, you need to have an interest in business. And one of the best things that I got out of my diploma, we were in the studio and we had this jewelry photographer, and so he was one of the kind of the teachers that would come in and would like help us once a month and things like that. And he had this business, this jewelry, he took photographs of jewelry in the city center of Sydney, and then he'd take people over into Lebanon and the Middle East for tours, like photography shoots. So he had this very successful business. He was very successful. And our head teacher, we were all sitting there in the dark because he was about to do some photographs and show us. And our head teacher said to him, all right, before all the students leave, can you tell them what you told me earlier? And he went, you sure? He said, yeah, can you tell them, please, they need to know it. And we were like all there curious going, what's he talking about? And his name was Dario. So he said, the jewelry photographer said, guys, sit down, boys and girls. And he said, I need to tell you about the truth of photography. And he said, I know photographers, I've met them all around the world, beautiful, beautiful photographers. I know photographers that have the most beautiful artwork, the most beautiful photographs that will make you cry. Like it will literally make you emotionally just numb at like how beautiful the photographs, and it sucks you in and you're so engaged, and they struggle month to month. And I know photographers that know how to press a button and that's about it, but they've got a business set up, they've got a business structure, they know how to have second money and follow up and prints and different things, and they understand the business structure, and they make lots and lots of money every single month. And for me, that really stuck to me, because I think a lot of us and a lot of students were trying to be that artistic. I was very much into fine art photography, and expressive and artistic photography. But I also knew that I wanted to be a photographer for a while. I wanted to go deep into this thing. So for me to go deep in it, I actually have to sustain it, and I have to sustain it through finances, And so I would say, if you're going to go into it, you got to really, increase that curiosity of business. And it can be fun. It doesn't have to be all, a lot of people are negative, like, oh, it's just business. It's just, soulless. Man, at the end of the day, you're doing a service. You're helping someone. I've had clients where I've had 60 years of my brother, who's a photographer, telling me that this client, she's a psychologist, and she's now grown a business where she's helping elderly people fight dementia through, maintaining physical health and mental health. And she says, I've had, my whole life, I've had my photographer, my brother tell me how terrible I am in front of, taking photographs, how bad I look and how I can never take a good photograph. And I straight away said to her, look, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's got to do with the person taking the photograph. Like, I assure you, we'll get a good photograph of you. And we took photographs of her, and she said she broke down. She was in tears when I sent her the photographs, because she was like, my God, like, you've captured me, you've captured my essence, you've captured my soul. And this is a photograph that I'm so proud to share. So, don't look at it as just business is soulless, or you're just a salesy person. You're here to serve people. That's what I truly believe. We're here to serve people. And photography is a beautiful tool that can actually help people. You can really help business owners. And it could be a crux that they haven't sorted out for years, for decades. So dive deep into the business side of things.
That is great advice for anyone looking to start a photography business. I think that should be at the core of what they are trying to achieve, right? So that is excellent advice, Kyle. So I guess we're right at the end here. So I understand, as you've mentioned as well, that you're writing a book. You're trying to do something a little bit different. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so creation, always creation, creating different things. So I'm writing this book. It's called Decide Your Destiny. And it was a message that I got from my grandfather. He told me a long time ago, when I was sitting in lounge room with him, and my grandparents raised me, and he just turned to me. We weren't talking about anything. He said, decide your destiny. I said, what? He said, decide your destiny. I said, what are you talking about, Clive? He said, make sure whatever you do in your life that you decide your destiny. And for me, that kind of went in one ear and went out the other, 18-year-old. And it was only years later when I'd gone through a lot of trauma, near-death experiences, a lot of a heavy condensed roller coaster of a life. And I'd come back from Sydney after holding his hand as he passed on from this earth. And I sat there in deep prayer. I just said, God, ether, energy source, whatever anyone's comfortable with. I just said, please tell me what the next step is. I'm not afraid of social disapproval. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of any of these embarrassment. I just want to know what the next step is. I want to get on my journey now. I don't want to wait until I'm 50 and bounce around. I want to get to it now. Quite impatient. And so I got this vision of this book, and then I just got this message to share my story. And so that's where it came from. That was the source. And then since then, that was quite a few years ago, I've just been developing this book. I've been doing daily vlogs, of a daily dose of deciding your destiny. And where I'm really focusing that is in the mental health space, is in youth health, is in, people that have had their, mental health or their life rocked in the last few years, and how to bring some more fortitude back into their life, and how to, decide their destiny. That's the main thing. So what are the things that I can do to become the authority over my own life? And it goes through 7 steps in the book, and then the course goes through those 7 steps again. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, and just building that community. And yeah, it's exciting times.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Kyle. I'm sure our audience will have a lot of takeaways from your story. You've added a lot of great tips for any would-be photographer or any service-based business, right? As you've rightfully said, keep on pushing, because you know what? Without the hustle, you're not gonna really get anywhere, right? Because obviously they didn't teach you how to market your services in photography school, right? So the thing is that it's all upon you and how well you can actually, as you said, push yourself, right? So we
Yeah,
come down to that. So if Kyle, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
for sure. So I'll just add one last thing to that. Like you will figure a lot out through activity. Like I said it before, through photography being like a kinesthetic learner. Like a lot of times we kind of go, how do I plan? How do I strategize? How do I forecast everything? You'll learn out what photography styles you like. You'll learn out how you like to conduct your business by trialing it out. Of course, you don't want to trial it out. It's costly to trial it out on clients, but that's where you get involved with your friends and your family and you start taking photographs and you will learn what you like through doing. So get into the action state. So you could find me, you could find more about my photography on soulgazingphotography.com. And that's the same on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn is Kyle Spyrides. And then the book, if you want to find out more information about the book, it's decideyordestinybook.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All your contact information will be in the description below. If anyone wants to get in touch with Kyle, please do so. And again, Kyle, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tarek. I really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you for watching. We really appreciate that. If you like what you saw, hit the like button. It really helps with YouTube's algorithm. If you have something to say, leave us a comment below. We're going to be coming out with similar videos like these every week, so hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.